We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180. Our guest by phone, James Hirsen, the author and commentator on Left Coast Report. So, James, question for you on this article again. Obama, he did this obviously to excite his left base. Do you think overall he silenced a lot of the critics on the left by doing this? Because there were a lot of people on the far left that were starting to abandon him. They were going to sit out the election.
No, there was. And especially like the beginning of this year, Matt Damon was probably the biggest name who was an Obama supporter and really said some disparaging things about Obama, even to the point where he said, maybe he should be a one-term president. I mean, sounding like Michelle Bachmann or something. And there were others, Diddy Combs and Will.I.am of the Black Eyed Peas and Robert Redford, Barbra Streisand, a lot of people. Norman Lear said he wouldn't support him anymore.
And wrote him a check.
And now, I mean, this one statement to Hollywood, which reacts with emotion always, it's just, he's a leader, he's turned everything around. Norman Lear writes the maximum amount for himself and his wife. The enthusiasm was expressed at the Clooney Affair, which raised $15 million. A bunch of other fundraisers popped up. The co-creator of Glee immediately decided to have a fundraiser hosted by he and his male fiance. And, so it's, in terms of money, it's working. In terms of enthusing the bastions of left-of-center thinking, it definitely is working. And remember, the Obama campaign announced that they had a goal of $1 billion. Well, I think this is going to help them. I don't think they're going to reach that goal, but get closer to it than they would have, because enthusiasm turns into cash. And the bundlers, the biggest bundlers in Hollywood, two of them are Andy Spahn and Chad Griffin. For a long time, Chad Griffin used to advise Rob Reiner. Andy Spahn is the political advisor to Jeffrey Katzenberg, who is the bundler at Big Bucks. He's, of course, one of the co-founders of DreamWorks, big Obama supporter. He co-hosted with Clooney at that affair. And they're all saying that, they can't schedule enough of these fundraisers. People want the tickets. They want to support Obama's reelection now. And it's almost solely due to this same-sex marriage announcement. So from a money point of view, it's working. From a poll point of view, they're misreading the tea leaves. And I don't care how much money they get. I think they don't understand so-called flyover country.
There's two sides to enthusiasm.
And that's true, too. This was a gift to Mitt Romney.
Exactly.
Who had a problem, a very serious problem, which is almost eradicated. And that was that, as you mentioned, I teach at Biola. I understand the evangelical world. The average evangelical that attends a church, so-called Bible church, understands Mormon theology better than most rank-and-file LDS members. And they see it as very flawed theology and have very strong feelings about it. And it was affecting the primaries because the evangelical leaders got together and endorsed Rick Santorum. And so now this issue has galvanized and united the various factions, the Tea Party, Christians, the other religious groups, economic groups, and that's just what Romney needed, and that is a gift to Romney as well.
Well, it appears to me that not only is he dividing religious groups, and he's dividing the blacks from the whites, he's dividing the Christians from Hollywood. I mean, he's doing everything he can to divide this country into two segments.
Yeah, exactly. There's no question about it. And we have a situation with the campaign finance law where, because of the super PACs, Romney has the ability, through his surrogates, to really fight back. So, for example, there are some surrogates and Democrats who have brought up and attacked Romney's lineage, his Mormon, some of his relatives that were polygamists, etc. And so there's the owner of the Cubs. He's also the founder of one of the big online trading companies, has put together a set of ads that bring up Reverend Wright and liberation theology as a counterpunch to attacks on Romney for Mormonism. And so we're going to have, speaking of dividing, we're going to have a very mean-spirited, very negative election campaign using the media, using surrogates, and using super PACs. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it will be. We're having a conversation with James Hirsen from the Left Coast Report. James, you're doing all these segues for me, which is perfect, because I was going to ask you about the Reverend Wright thing, because I saw an article on MSNBC this morning. And do you think that's a good strategy for Romney's campaign, to bring up Reverend Wright to offset any negativity that may come up because of him being Mormon?
Well, it's not good for Mitt Romney to personally do it. However, we can see the surrogate fight. Look, when the announcement of same-sex marriage occurred, at the same time, a coordinated hit piece appeared in the Washington Post from an alleged incident 50 years ago involving the bullying of a gay student at a prep school by Mitt Romney, alleged, which is really, the kind of opposition research that the Obama candidate in 2008 would condemn. But clearly the Obama campaign was the source of this. And so it's good to see that the surrogates of Mitt Romney are going to hit back and even be on the offensive, because actually these things are legitimate. Reverend Wright, in Ed Klein's new book, alleges that he was offered or given, it's hard to determine, but that he was offered a bribe of $150,000 just basically to shut up about his relationship with then candidate Obama. Ed Klein says this relationship was far more than a pastor and someone in the church, that Reverend Wright was a father figure to Obama, that he advised him, that he taught him, that they were bonded, they were close, and that Obama didn't just sit in the pew listening to Reverend Wright's hate, that he was enamored by Reverend Wright's hate. Well, that's very important, and it's legitimate. And in the light of the way the mainstream media treated candidate Obama, a lot of the conservative sites talk about this. I think the argument can be made that he was never vetted at all. So let's vet him now.
Well, we can't vet him because he sealed all of his records.
Well, that's a good point, too. Yeah, he sealed it. And that's a point that I was disappointed wasn't brought up enough when they're coming up with stories about Mitt Romney 50 years ago being a bully.
Well, Obama 50 years ago was sitting in a school in Kenya. Couldn't speak English.
Or Indonesia somewhere.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Reverend Wright also says that, much like, this is belittled by the mainstream media, but that he's basically calling Obama a Muslim that just sort of adopted Christian garb, and that the only reason that he did it was because of the liberation theology, that he's not. And this is Reverend Wright. But Reverend Wright has an axe to grind, too. So as a source, he certainly, he feels like Obama threw him under the bus.
This is one time I agree with Reverend Wright.
Oh, James, unfortunately we're out of time, and we have to have you back. Definitely have to have you back.
Yeah, we just touched on things.
Yeah,
today.
yeah. We'd love to have you back for the whole hour if possible, sometime between now and the election.
Well, we'll have to schedule it, and hopefully we'll do it again.
And definitely, you want to listen. You want to read his column, "The Left Coast Report," and is that part of Newsmax?
It is.
Okay, good. So on Newsmax.com, every week, the Left Coast Report by James Hirsen. I highly recommend it. And James, if you would, hang on for a second. I have a question for you off the air.
Okay.
We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk 1180.